Hey everybody, this is the Ultimate Fan Chat. Today we will be talking about the depth of the UFC welterweight division. Get excited because I know I am. And my name is Chris.
I'm Dan, and like Chris said, we're going to be going through the top 15 in the UFC's welterweight division and just talking about a bit about every fighter and what we think of them.
Exactly right. That's exactly what we're talking about. And I've just enlarged my screen way too big and I've lost what we're going to be talking about. There we go. Found it.
All right, let's start from the bottom up. I think that makes sense, doesn't it?
Yeah, that definitely makes sense. We'll go from there. So start from number 15. So we're looking at the top 15 welterweights in the UFC at the moment. So number 15 is Dong Yong Kim, who personally I rate kind of highly. Maybe he's probably lost a little bit of gas at this stage of his career. But
Hmm.
if you look at his record, the people he's lost to are only either champions or Damian Maia. So you can't really hold too much against him for his losses. So what's your
Hmm.
outlook on him?
First of all, I might be a bit biased because he's a fellow Korean. I'm Korean, but even then, you're right. You're right. I didn't notice that he just lost to basically champs and Damian Maya, who's a world champ in jiu-jitsu. But then again, like, who did he really beat?
Good
I
question.
don't know.
Remind me.
Go
Yeah,
on.
yeah, it's a good question. Who did he beat? He's beat people like Eric Silva, John Hathaway when John Hathaway was like an up and coming prospect. Joshua Berkman, which doesn't mean much. Tarek Safadin, who is a former Strikeforce champion, so once again that means something. Beat Nate Diaz, who everyone thinks is an oversized welterweight when obviously he's just a regular size lightweight. Amir Sadala when Amir Sadala just came out of the Ultimate Fighter, so that was a big win. TJ Grant, who was a top contender at lightweight, so once again beating up lightweights. Uh, Matt Brown, who anyone who knows who Matt Brown is, that's a big win. And Sia Bahada Ruzada, I can't see his name, but that's a big name to beat as well. So he has beat names. He hasn't beat like top 10 names, but he's beat some of the real like hard up and comers.
Hmm. So he sounds a bit like a gatekeeper in a sense that, he can't or hasn't really beat anyone in the top 10, but has lost to them.
Well, yeah, I guess that's why he's at number 15.
True, true, true,
It makes sense,
true.
doesn't it? If you're a
Right.
gatekeeper will put you at number 15. All right, so we'll move on from
Yeah,
there. So
that's
that's
good.
that's our opinions on that. Oh, you're talking about his decision making when it comes to fighting against wrestlers like Colby Covington.
Yeah, like his fight IQ, like I was just baffled because like I wrestle and I saw him sprawl out in his fight against Kobe Covington. Kobe went for, a single or double. Dong Hyun Kim sprawled out. He was fine. He's completely out. And then after he sprawled out on top, he shoves his knee in to the Kobe Covington's shoulder. Now, as a wrestler, that's exactly what I want. Like, the first thing I do if someone rolls on top of me is I'm gonna fucking try and grab the leg. See if I can clasp my hand whichever way I can on a single. And then Kobe didn't have that, but Dong Hyun Kim went back into his shoulder. And once you feel that, you go, oh, sweet, bang. And Kobe got a single leg off it. And I'm just going, you got to question that decision making. And that's when you go, what kind of fight IQ? Because I don't know, maybe it's a background thing. Maybe he doesn't wrestle and does judo because he's a judo black belt. But as a mixed martial artist, you do it all. And wrestling 101 is after you sprawl on top, you don't essentially just give them back your leg. It's like a good example would be in jiu-jitsu. If you in half guard and you take your knee out of half guard, but I still have your foot in, you don't go and put your knee back in. Do you get what I'm saying?
Yeah, I get what you're saying. 100%, I get what you're saying. Yeah. So
Hmm.
when he brings that knee in, that's exactly what a wrestler wants. So well, I guess he's not a wrestler.
So,
He's a judo black belt, but obviously being a veteran in the sport, he's had I'm not even going to bother counting his fights, but I'm going to guess at least 15 fights in the UFC. You'd expect him to have
Yeah.
like a little bit more IQ when it comes to fighting a wrestler like that. All right.
Yes,
So now
that's true.
let's move on to number 14. That's Alex Oliveira. He's
Alex
he's
Oliveira.
he's a lot better than I originally thought he was. Like
Mm.
he dismantled Carlos Condit, which is, well, once again at that stage of Carlos Condit's career, it doesn't really mean as much as it previously would have, but it still means something. It's Carlos Condit, former interim champion.
I didn't watch that fight. What happened?
Uh, Pretty sure. Yeah, he what happened? He got Carlos Condit was going okay, then he got clipped with an up kick trying to pass the guard.
Mhm.
He got rocked, then he got choked.
So it was
If
fairly
I'm
competitive
if
until then.
yeah, if I'm remembering this correctly. One sec.
That's interesting. I remember.
Let's have a look at the
Remember he
fight.
had an amazing fight against Yancy.
Yeah, he got
Did you watch that by
he
any
got
chance?
got choked. Against Yancey. Yeah, man, I watched that. You better believe I watched that.
How come Yancy is not top 15 and
Because
he is?
he recently lost to Donald Cerrone via knockout. He was probably at number 15 because he had that,
Yeah.
because beating Alex Oliveira was probably the bigger
Oh,
win that
I
he's had.
remember that.
And then he
Yes,
fought
yes,
Donald Cerrone,
yes.
and then him and Donald Cerrone were hugging all through the fight, and then he got knocked out, and then he went and gave Donald
Yes.
Cerrone's grandma a kiss.
But basically, this is the what do you call it? Moral of the story, boys. Be a cunt to Donald Cerrone. Be a cunt to him.
Go the Nate
If you hug
Diaz
him,
route.
he'll fuck you up.
Go the Nate
If
Diaz
you
route.
hug
When
him.
he walks up to you, you go shake your hand, flip his hat off.
Yeah. No, no. Did you see it in between the rounds? And Diaz looking at him. He's like, "What, motherfucker?
Yeah.
What?"
Yep. I
Yeah.
remember that. That was
That,
I've watched that
that's
fight countless times. I love it. I absolutely love it.
that was that was a fun fight. That was a fun fight.
I guess that's really all there is to say about Alex Oliveira. He had a fight of the year like contestant with Yancy Medeiros, and he beat Carlos Condit. So that's pretty. And he got choked out by Donald Cerrone. So there we go. So we'll move on to number 13, which is Leon
Leon
Edwards, which
Edwards.
is fairly relevant considering
Yes.
he just fought this weekend against Donald Cerrone. Do you want to give your thoughts on that fight?
Yeah, I was looking at it, and he looked a size bigger than Donald. I I liked it clearly because after the fight, he was all class. He was saying Donald Cerrone is a legend. I looked up to him, while I was fighting up through the ranks. So I really appreciate the opportunity to be able to fight him. But before the fight, all he did was shit talk, which kind of brings you back to what we were saying before. If you want to be Donald Cerrone, don't be his friend. So also, the first thing that you'll notice is at the start of the fight, he landed a great knee. He was really going for a kick, but he landed with a knee as Donald Cerrone was changing level. Because what Donald Cerrone does against Southpaw and what he was doing against like Robbie Lawler is to break that distance. He wants to get the clinch. He doesn't want to go for a takedown, but he level changes, goes for I wouldn't say sloppy, but he goes for the setup to a takedown, clinches up, knees, and then starts from inside range, throwing punches. But and that was probably one of his biggest assets in the game plan. But once Leon straight away landed that knee, Donald Cerrone was hurt and didn't do that in that whole round and the second round. And he only started doing it on the third, fourth, and fifth round, where you were telling me before you thought Donald Cerrone was starting to take over. So that shows some really good game planning and IQ from Leon's side. It shows his ability to listen to advice and, implement his game plan that his corner brought up to him.
Yeah. I wasn't. I was impressed with Leon Edwards in the first and second round of that fight. I thought the way he was throwing those knees in the clinch, because it wasn't a Muay Thai clinch, it was more of like a Greco-Roman clinch with like the over-unders type of thing, and he was kind of, I guess it was a Muay Thai clinch kind of thing, because he was kind of pushing his body down. He was getting those knees up
And
really
every time,
high. He was getting those knees up super high and hitting Donald in the face. And that's when he cut Donald. That was early in the
yes,
first round, and from that point on, it took Donald say a good round and a half to really gain his composure back after that because he kept on wiping his eye, wiping the blood out of his eye. So that was a really big part of that fight.
I
But
agree.
by the time Donald Cerrone kind of he kind of got used to it, or I don't know, he just kind of adapted to it at that point. But by the time it got to like halfway through the second round, if not by the end of the second round, he started gaining a little bit of momentum. He started landing a couple of good shots against Leon Edwards. So
I
the first
I
and second
agree.
round I thought easily went to um, Leon Edwards, but I thought, okay, well, Donald Cerrone started to take over. And I think my prediction was that he was going to Donald Cerrone would win in the fourth round because he was going to tire out Leon Edwards. And by the third round, he started to notice that Leon Edwards was tiring because his output just dropped considerably in comparison to the
Yes,
first two rounds.
that's
And
true. That
so the third round, personally, I gave to Donald Cerrone because there was like one big moment for Leon Edwards where he landed an elbow, I'm pretty sure, and that kind of stunned Donald Cerrone, but he didn't get dropped. It didn't put him down. It kind of stunned him for a little bit, but then he got back on his bicycle, kept on moving, and then landing plenty more shots. So I still thought that he won that round, and then I thought rounds 4 and 5 easily went to Donald Cerrone. So
mhm,
I
mhm.
thought Leon Edwards should have won that fight because he's the bigger guy. He's a younger guy. He should have a lot. His body should just be faster and should react a lot quicker to Donald Cerrone, who's now 35.
Sure.
But he beat him. Yeah, he beat him, but he didn't beat him in the way that you want to beat a a name like that, an old name like that as well. Someone at 35 in an athletic division like the welterweight division, you want to get a big win. But obviously, easier said than done. Donald Cerrone's crafty.
True.
So yeah, that's my opinion on
True.
that fight.
True. I get your point, and I agree with you. Like he didn't really make a statement in a sense.
No,
He
no,
did beat Cerrone, but it wasn't like a wow factor.
no, not like a Darren Till. Darren Till did exactly what you need to do against someone like Donald Cerrone. Same with uh, Jorge Masvidal. Did exactly what you need to do. When you get that opportunity against that kind of name, you need to make the most of it. And I don't feel like he made the most of it. He got the win, but he didn't make the most of it.
True. I agree. I agree. Just going back to what you're saying about Leon Edwards and elbows, I really, really liked it. Every time they came off the clinch, Leon would always back it with an elbow, which was really nice. That's something I'm going to incorporate to my game. I actually started incorporating punches and kicks, but yeah, elbows. That's smart. I was really impressed. I really like that.
Yeah, well, he really made Donald Cerrone pay every time that he broke the clinch because Donald Cerrone wasn't doing
Yes.
so well in the clinch because obviously he's the smaller guy. You're trying to muscle a much bigger person. It's not going to be easy.
Mm.
But every time Donald Cerrone exited that clinch, he got clipped with an elbow, and that was pretty much the only offense from Leon Edwards from the third round onwards. It was just an elbow from the clinch.
Yeah, you're right. He did get tired, and he did was exchanging, just point, but nothing significant. Actually, he did off memory. He did catch Donald Cerrone, like make him stumble, but he never ever, how can I say, capitalized on it. He just played it safe. So that was kind of frustrating to watch, actually.
It was his first 5 round fight, I believe, so that probably played a little bit into it. Like he was probably just being very cautious of his gas tank, making sure it didn't tire out.
Hmm.
Anyways, that's number 13. So we'll move on from Leon Edwards. I think we've set our part on him. Now we'll go on to number 12, which is Gunnar Nelson. Gunnar Nelson, someone who he's been an up and comer for a bit too long now. I think
Yes, that is true.
he's one of those guys that if you haven't broken through yet, like when are you going to?
Hmm.
Like he has a lot of potential. How old is he? Just pulling up his page now, but it's taking forever to load.
29.
29. All right, yeah, 20. Still young, but man, he
Yeah,
can.
in his athletic prime, but pretty much, all downhill in 2, 3 years
Well, he's had a
in
couple of
his
good wins.
prime right now.
he beat Ellen Joboin, which is a big win in that Albert Trumenov. Yeah, not too good with these names. But he's had some really good wins. Just that Santiago Ponzinibbio fight, that was bad. He got eye poked until he got knocked out. He copped like 3 eye pokes that went knuckle deep, and then he's like, oh
Yeah.
shit, I can't see, and then bang, knockout. And obviously Ponzinibbio is a top notch fighter. So if you have um any kind of handicap against him, then he's gonna make sure he takes over. That was that wasn't good. And he
Mm.
asked to fight Damian Maia, and he lost to Damian Maia, and I think he landed 2 strikes in like each. No, it was 16. Actually, it says he landed 2 strikes in the first round, one
Strikes the
strike
whole.
in the second round, and no strikes in the third round against Damian Maia.
Hmm. Well, there you go. Yeah, basically the same thing as Don Young Kim. Loses to anyone in the top 10, and based
Yeah.
on his record, yeah,
Well,
loses to anyone in the top 10.
he lost to Rick Story when Rick Story was still in the top 10.
Mm. What happened to Rick Story? I think he was in PFL.
Yeah, he's in PFL now. He's gone for that $1 million prize.
Yeah, good for him.
Yeah,
Alrighty.
I was always a big fan of him. Gunnar
Well,
Nelson, he's a black belt in jiu-jitsu, and he's got solid stand-up. You'd expect him to do a little bit better. I guess maybe he's taken too much time off between fights. He hasn't fought since July of last year.
mm. Well, he did get knocked out. Let him have all the rest.
Yeah, I guess you do need to rest your brain a little bit.
Yeah.
All right, there's not really too much to say on him. He should have. I know he should be further up by now. He's just lost all his key fights to get there.
Hmm. That's true.
But
All right, moving on.
so far we're going through, and like these are really good names for like the bottom 5 of the top 15. They're all top-notch guys to be at the in the bottom 15, bottom 5 of the top 15. Because if you go to heavyweight and you got Justin Willis and Junior Albini at 14 and 15.
No idea who they are.
Exactly, exactly. Junior Albini is a guy that wore a nappy to his fight, so that's him.
All right.
All right. Anyways, so let's move on. So now we're moving on to number 11, which is Donald Cerrone, which we've already
Donald.
spoken about. Donald Cerrone is just an absolute warrior. Just as we say, he fights every second week. He's always out there
Yeah.
fighting. He always gives the up and coming welterweights a chance at him, and that's how Darren Till got his name. That's how Jorge Masvidal got his name. And if Leon Edwards, I don't know, put a bit more pressure on him, maybe gave a bit more of a dominant performance, that's how he would have gotten his name.
Mm-hmm. Whew, poor Donald. Let's take a look. Lost. Jorge Masvidal, TKO. Robbie Lawler, decision. Darren Dill, round 1 TKO. Whew. Anyways, all I want to say is, you told me before you think Donald Cerrone is one. What was what was it that you said? One of the biggest talents never to win a championship. I
Yes,
think that's what you said, right?
yeah,
I
one
completely
of the
agree.
best fighters, if not the best fighter, to never win a championship.
I agree. I completely agree. Uh, I think Donald Cerrone is past his prime now at 35 and 36. Yeah, it's all downhill from here because no one can beat Father Time. But yeah,
Father
it's
time.
sad to see Father Time. It's sad to see, but Donald Cerrone still a fan favorite, still holds a special place in my heart, and I look forward to his future matches, man.
Yeah, so do I. Well, in the fight against Leon Edwards, I thought he did look a little bit slower than we're used to. Because if you go back to like the Rick Story fight and that like absolute Dragon Ball Z like finisher that he put
Yes,
on him, and then the
yes, that
head
was
kick knockout
beautiful.
that he gave Matt Brown, which that broke my heart. Matt Brown, one of my top 5 favorite fighters of any division ever. I just
Mm.
love him. He's just such a beast. And well, he knocked out Patrick Cote as well, which I'm pretty sure he put him into retirement. But yeah,
Jesus.
I feel like in that Leon Edwards fight, he just looked a little bit slower than he has in previous fights. So I guess Father Time's catching up. He's having a kid now. His missus is apparently she was due on the day of his fight, so he flew back on the same day so that he could be there for the birth of his kid. So it's pretty cool.
Awesome.
Pretty cool, but yeah, Father Time does catch up, I guess. And it looks like it
Back
has,
to him.
considering he's lost 4 of his last 5 fights.
Congratulations to him. He's had a amazing career. 5 performances a night, 5 fights of the night. I mean, 8 fights of the nights, 3 knockouts of the night, 2 submissions of the night. The guy's amazing.
Yeah, he
I like
is.
him.
He is. He's fantastic. He's had 45 fights all up with 33 wins and 11 losses and 1 no contest, which, who was that? I don't even know who that person was. But an interesting thing about him, up until he fought Jorge Masvidal, he had never lost more than 1 fight consecutively. He'd never lost like 2 fights in a row. And then he fought Jorge Masvidal and he lost against him. Then he lost against Robbie Lawler, and then he lost against Darren Till. So that's his first 3-fight consecutive losing streak of ever in his career. So that's pretty decent considering up until that point he'd had, say, what's he on now? 45. He'd had 40 fights. Out of 40 fights, he'd never lost more than 1 fight at a time. That's a pretty solid effort, I think. And his losses were to guys like RDA twice, Anthony Pettis, Nate Diaz, Benson Henderson, Jamie Varner, all champions except for obviously Nate Diaz, but Nate Diaz is a heavyweight, remember? So how are you going to beat a heavyweight? But Jamie Varner was a champion over in WEC. Benson Henderson was a champion in WEC, and then he came over to the UFC and became a champion. Anthony Pettis, obviously, champion in the WEC, then came over to the UFC, became a champion. RDA, champion at lightweight, then came over to the UFC, came over to the welterweight division and fought for the interim welterweight title. So the guys that he's lost to, they're a big deal.
I agree.
Okay, so that's Donald Cerrone. Now we'll move on to number 10, which is Santiago Ponzinibbio. What are your thoughts on him?
Santiago. In all honesty, I've never seen him fight. I have no idea.
Really?
What are your thoughts? Yeah.
I've seen a few of his fights. I saw his fight against Mike Perry. Is that his name? Matt. Pretty sure it's Mike Perry. Perry. Say Perry. I'll say I saw his fight against Perry. I saw Mike Perry. I saw his fight against Mike Perry. And we just outpointed him for the entire fight. Perry was looking for the big overhand right the entire time, and yeah, he just outpointed him. He just proved that he's the more
level above,
well-rounded striker.
I know what you're talking about. I watched that fight too.
Yeah, and that was a bad showing for Mike Perry. He's just going for that knockout after beating Jake Allenberger. I guess he just thought, I've got that much power. I don't need to like throw a jab. I just got to make sure I land one punch. But he couldn't land that one punch. And then he fought. He also fought Gunnar Nelson. That's when obviously he landed like 3 eye pokes and then he knocked him out. So that's a bit of I don't know how much weight that win like carries. And Norton Taleb. I'm pretty sure I've seen that guy fight, and I'm pretty sure I was impressed with him. Zach Cummings. Zach Cummings is an underrated welterweight. He's a difficult guy to beat. He doesn't look the part. He doesn't have this big like Tyron Woodley physique, or he doesn't move very quickly, but he's very crafty. So to get a win over a guy like that, it's no easy feat. And then Court McGee, who's always a tough outing for anyone because he's just that scrappy wrestler. So yeah, he's got some good wins. Just that one Gunnar Nelson fight's just a bit of an asterisk against his name, I think. But he stopped the hype train of Mike Perry.
True.
Yeah,
Hopefully he gets the top 10.
Yeah, well, he was meant to fight Usman. but he had to pull out of that fight, and that's when Damian Maia came in. And that would have been interesting, seeing like it would have been the old school striker versus wrestler. So yeah, that would have been pretty interesting. But yeah, I like him. I think he just needs to be given a name at this point. Where he's teammates with Masvidal, so he doesn't want to fight him. It would be, I reckon, Neil Magny would be a good matchup for him. I'd like to see that.
Neil Magny, aren't you? Cool.
Yeah, that's my opinion.
Alrighty.
Do you have anything more to say on him, or is that it?
Don't really know much, sadly.
Okay, fair enough. We'll move on then. We'll move on to number 9, Jorge
Jorge
Masvidal.
Masvidal.
I mean, jeez, you can't say anything bad about him.
I can,
He's a gamer.
and I will.
Oh, well.
He is game. I'll give him that. He's very much game.
His nickname is Game Bread.
Alrighty. Here's what I think. I think he's very game. I think he's very tough. I think he's very good. I think he's undersized. I don't think he belongs in the welterweight division. He's too small when you take into people like Leon and Darren Till. I think he might be better than them technically. However, there are weight classes for a reason. I think he's in the wrong weight class, and I don't see how he's going to compete. I don't see how he's going to win against guys much bigger than him, like 2, 3. Yeah, I don't see it.
Okay,
I can't see him beating. Go on.
You're talking about weight and like size, but you remember he fought Damian Maia. Damian Maia is a huge welterweight. He was big for middleweight. I don't know how he makes welterweight, to be honest, Damian Maia.
And he lost to Damian
He
Maia.
lost a split decision to Damian Maia.
Still lost.
Yeah, he still lost.
That's
but
what I mean.
It's not as though he can't compete against bigger guys. And he fought the Stephen Thompson fight, I thought showed that, yeah, okay, being undersized against a striker that is this, like, on par, if not better than you, you can't overcome that reach. Especially Stephen Thompson, he throws a lot of kicks. You got to get past those kicks. And he couldn't, the entire fight, he couldn't do anything to Stephen Thompson. So I guess, yeah, the size argument does come up in that fight. But against Damian Maia, I didn't think so. He showed that his technique was good enough to compete with Damian Maia to the point where he wasn't in a great deal of trouble. He did have Damian Maia on his back for the majority of the fight, but it didn't ever look like a choke was going to be locked in.
Okay, maybe I worded that wrong. I don't mean compete. What I meant was win against. So, for example, what you said was Damian Maia is huge. Yes. He still lost to Damian Maia. So, if Damian Maia and him were in the same size, he probably would have won it. What I'm saying is he's fighting at a huge disadvantage, owing to the fact that I personally think he's fighting the wrong weight class. I think he should be at 155, and I think he can be champ there if he goes down. Whereas at welterweight, it's going to be really hard, really hard due to his size.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, I guess I misunderstood you a little bit. Yeah, I agree with you there. It's going to be hard. He's got the exact same amount of fights as Donald Cerrone, funny enough, 45 fights. He's been around for a long time. You know, he was on the remember Kimbo Slice's internet like backyard brawls?
Oh, was he?
He was one of the guys on that. How interesting is that? That's pretty cool.
That is cool.
Let's look at when he was back at lightweight. So he lost to Benson Henderson. No, I take that back. That's when he moved up. Okay, that's interesting. So since he's moved up to welterweight, he's fought Cesar Ferreira, who's a huge welterweight, knocked him out with elbows and punches. Then he fought Benson Henderson, who's a lightweight. Then he fought Lawrence Larkin, which he lost, but personally I thought he won that fight when I watched it, but yeah, he lost. Then he fought Ross Pearson, he's fought at featherweight. Then he fought Jake Ellenberger, who was he's a middle to small welterweight because he's like 5'8" and he's not jacked. He's a thick dude, but he's not jacked. Then he fought Donald Cerrone, another lightweight. So he's majority of his fights since he's come up to welterweight have been against other lightweights who have come up to welterweight.
Yeah.
So yeah, that just proves your point. The point that you were making. His wins have come against other lightweights that have come up, and his losses have come up against the bigger welterweights like Damian Maia and Stephen Thompson and Lorenz Larkin. So there we go. He also lost Alex Quinter when he was a lightweight. Another fight that I thought he won. I was rooting for Alex Quinter, but I thought Masvidal won that.
Yeah, like I think he's maybe better than Kamaru Usman. Like he's gonna get wrestle fucked. Like he's just
Yeah,
there's a huge size difference.
he won't be able to do anything against Usman. Yeah, that would be a very bad matchup for him. Just pushed up against the cage and just you won't be able to do anything. He'll be stepping on your foot. He'll be throwing little tiny knees to your belly with very little force behind them. Yeah, no. Yeah, no. I agree with you. Make a good point, but the point of this video was to point out the depth of the welterweight division. It seems like we're diminishing the welterweight division so far. All right. Well, that's George Masvidal. That's all we'll say about him. We'll move
Neil
on to
Magny.
Yes, number 8, Neil Magny. Now, please be nice to Neil Magny. I mean, I love him. So I'll let you say your part, and then I'll say my part.
I think Neil Magny is game. Like I can't question his heart. I really can't. I think he's game. I think he's good. I don't think he's very good in terms of top 5. He lost to Rafael RDA. Rafael dos Anjos.
Rafael dos Anjos.
Rafael dos Anjos. Thank you. Lost to Rafael dos Anjos.
RDA.
Even though there was RDA. Even though there was a huge size difference, which goes to show that RDA just levels above. He just got outclassed. Mm-hmm. And RDA is no joke. So, but what I'm trying to highlight is Neil Magny is not a top 5 guy. He's not. He's a gatekeeper again. I can't see him winning against Tyron Woodley. Kobe Covington. Maybe. I don't know. We'll talk about Kobe later. Darren Till, I don't see him winning against him. Rafael demolished him. Stephen Thompson. That'll be an interesting fight. Robbie Lara. No, I love Robbie. Robbie would destroy them. And yeah, Kamaru Usman. So Neil Magny has nothing for anyone in top 5 really, and will keep acting as a gatekeeper and holding out the ranking from, around, 8 to 10, or maybe from 6 to 10. Yeah, that's my thoughts on Neil Magny. I think he's a very game fighter. I think he's a complete fighter. He's good at everything, but he's not very good at everything. So he won't be top 5 in my list.
Okay. Well, he's ranked number 8, so arguing if he's top 5 or not, it doesn't really matter because, well, he's not.
Well, you need to understand that the people who put out these lists are not that good. They're not, fighters or anything. True. Yes. So, all right, keep going.
Yeah, no. As this is going your point, so you're saying the people that do the UFC rankings, they're not
real analysts. They're not very good at their job.
They're journalists, and they're not even the top journalists in MMA journalism.
Yeah, they're not analysts who can actually come up with a great methodology as to why number 1 to 15 in a sense.
Yeah, well, let's show up. Oh, let's put up an example of that. Let's look at the featherweight division. Number 2 ranked is Jose Aldo. Jose Aldo lost his last 2 fights via stoppage to the same guy. You can't be ranked number 2 when you've lost 2 fights via stoppage.
I disagree with you.
When you've got guys beneath you that still have wins in their previous fights, although Cub Swanson maybe not. But someone like Jeremy Stevenson is knocked out. He's got knockouts in his past 2 fights, and he's He should be ranked above Jose Aldo at this point.
I disagree with you. Why do you think
Oh, seems we've lost him. And he's back. Okay.
that was my girlfriend calling because we're supposed to be chatting for half an hour? Anyways,
Uh,
and we've barely been at an hour, so it doesn't
okay.
matter.
So
We'll fix it.
let's move away from the featherweight division. I think we're getting a bit stuck on that. Let's not worry about it. We'll go back to welterweight.
Okay,
We can have
okay.
another video about this. That's
Yes.
that's
Yeah,
what
talking about the ranking and
that's what
stuff.
these videos are here for. Okay, so we're talking about Neil Magny. First of all, Neil Magny, I think he's fantastic. He just constantly fights. He's what did he do? Back in 2014 was it? From May of 2014 to May of 2015, he fought 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 times. Like, is that not just ridiculous?
Yeah, absolutely.
That's a
Like
good
as mentioned
effort.
before,
So he's
I
someone
don't
that
question his heart.
when he first came into the UFC, he didn't exactly have a great deal of skill, but he's gone in there and he's done exactly what you need to do. He's gone can crushing. He's gone on just an absolute can crushing like cruise. That's what you want.
Mhm.
Fight a bunch of cans and he's upped his skills and he got to the point where he fought a guy like Damian Maia and he fought well against Damian Maia, but obviously if you allow someone like that to take you to the ground, he's more than likely going to choke you. And that's exactly what happened when it got to the second round. But then he fought a guy like Eric Silva and then Kelvin Gastelum and Hector Lombard, and he beat them all. This is when Eric Silva was still like within his prime, and I don't think his side was as prominent at that point in time. So Eric Silva was very bulky, very explosive, and Kelvin Gastelum, who once again Kelvin Gastelum. I mean, if you can get a win over him in any division, that's a big deal.
I agree.
Hector Lombard, yeah, that don't know what to say about that. He's
Mhm.
but I think Father Time's got the best of him and
That was a
USADA.
great fight. That was a great fight against Hector Lombard.
It was a
I
good
really
fight, it
enjoyed it.
was, but yeah, he copped way too many punches at the end of that fight.
Yeah,
Like,
that's I told you that's what impressed me about Neil Magny. He has heart. The man got TKO'd and then came back to win by stoppage.
yeah. I
It
thought
was
that fight was
beautiful.
over. I thought that fight
Same, I
was
thought it was
over.
over too.
And then he came back and he knocked out TKO'd Hector Lombard, which was a big deal. Then his next fight was against Lorenz Larkin, and he got crushed. That was a bad showing for him. That was very bad. So that like I thought before that fight, I thought, oh yeah, Neil Magny coming up. This is great. And then he got crushed. So that was a bit sad. And then he fought Johnny Hendricks and he beat Johnny Hendricks off his back. It was like a Bas Rutten versus Kevin Randleman type of fight. He was on his back the entire time, but he was just doing a lot more. Although Bas Rutten didn't do much against Kevin Randleman except get punched in the face. So that's a story. That's a story for another time. But yeah, in this fight, he was throwing up submissions, he was throwing up elbows, he was doing a lot off his back, and he beat Johnny Hendricks, a very dominant wrestler, off his back.
Beautiful.
It sounds like you got something
Bottom
to say
line.
about that.
Bottom line. Can Neil Magny within 2 years expand on his skill set and become good enough to become the champion?
And we've lost him again. Oh, this is getting awkward now. Right,
It
get
keeps
back.
calling me. We
Get back.
really need to wrap this up soon.
Okay.
Can Neil Magny become the champion within 2 years? Yes or no?
No, you can't. I don't think he will. I think the guys at the top, they're too young. Neil Magny's already in his prime. So if he's gonna do it, he has to do it within the next. Well, he has to do it within the next 2 years. Otherwise, it's not going to happen.
The next 2 years. I agree.
All
All
right.
right, let's move on. Damian Maia, a favorite, someone we look up to in the jiu-jitsu community. I love him. Watch his every fight. Sadly, would you say one of the best fighters again, like Donald Cerrone, to never win a belt?
I would say Donald Cerrone is more so one of the better fighters not to ever win a belt because he's more well-rounded. He's got
I agree.
fantastic striking. He's got as I previously said in a different video, his takedowns are so well timed, like a GSP, and his work off his back, his submissions, his sweeps, his ability to get back to his feet, work the cage to stand back up. It's
Mm.
fantastic. So Donald Cerrone put him above Damian Maia, but Damian Maia is definitely up there. He's definitely up there as one of the better fighters to never win a championship. But I feel like he's kind of one of the fighters that was never really expected to win a championship either. He was always expected to be a top contender, but never win a championship.
Got you. I how can I say? I really like Damian Maia. I was very impressed with him. He's 4 years old now, way off his peak. I don't think he's going to become champ anytime soon. I studied Damian Maia because I really liked his fighting style, and I wanted to learn a lot from him. And what I realized is he's very one-dimensional in the sense that the skills that he uses to grab the takedown are very one-dimensional, and that's what the Tyron Woodley fight showed. However, he does it really, really well. He uses a small set of skill set to get people down, but he does it very, very well. And yeah, and he got kind of like, figured out. All right, let's move on. Can't spend too much time.
Just quickly on Damian Maia. Yeah, well, he's always been one dimensional. That's been his bread and butter. I mean, everyone knows what he's going to do, like coming into a fight with him, but he's always still somehow able to do it until he came up against guys like Tyron Woodley, Colby Covington, and Kamaru Usman because they're such top shelf wrestlers. It was just it's way too difficult for Damian Maia to take him down. But I reckon if you put him up against maybe, let me have a look at the rankings. If you put him up against anyone else other than maybe Stephen Thompson, I reckon he beats him. Anyone else in the top 15, I reckon he could probably do. Damian Maia is a guy that showed me the fake down, where you shoot for a takedown.
My man.
This is where you shoot for a takedown, but you're not actually going for the takedown. You're just going to grab a hold of the legs and then you scoot in and grab a half guard, full guard if you can, but normally a half guard. Actually, you don't want a full guard. You want a half guard because you got that underhook, and he uses that to sweep them over. So you're going for a takedown. You're not aiming for the takedown, but you're still aiming to get on top. So that's why I call it the fake down. It's fantastic and it works. It works so well from against so many opponents, and for me personally, it's worked well for me as well. Dan, I'm pretty sure I've done it to you on numerous occasions.
It's a beautiful move. It's a
really
beautiful move. I use it too. Go for the takedown. They sprawl on top. Bang. Fake down.
Fantastic.
Beautiful.
All right, we'll move on from there now. Now we'll go to the last guy to beat Damian Maia at number 6, Kamaru Usman. What are your thoughts?
I'll leave it all to you. I've never seen the man fight.
Okay, well, this is another guy that's very one-dimensional. He does have a knockout on his record, but the majority of his wins, especially in the UFC, have come via unanimous decision. Yeah, he has one knockout that came midway through the second round. But the majority of his fights come via wrestling, and he just kind of holds them and doesn't... I've only seen maybe 3 or 4 of his fights, and they all seem the same. He takes people down, and he just holds them. He doesn't do a great deal. He's not confident enough in his striking to strike with anyone that's at a decent level. With Emil Meek, he just took him down and held him for the entire fight. With Damian Maia, his striking was good enough to... It's not that he has good or bad striking. Instead, he has a lot of power. He has a lot of power, so it's scary for a guy like Damian Maia, who's known for not being a striker, to throw down with him. So Damian Maia is obviously shooting for takedowns and not getting him the entire fight, so he lost that fight relatively easy. Yeah, I know. Usman, there's a lot of hype behind him, and everyone... I've heard a lot of MMA journalists talk about how a lot of people just don't want to fight him, which I don't blame them, because you're not going to look good against Kamaru Usman. He's just going to grab a hold of you and just not do a great deal, and that's it. So personally, I don't see him beating a guy like Robbie Lawler, because Robbie Lawler has that fantastic takedown defense.
I agree. Robbie Lawler would knock out.
I don't see him putting his hands on Stephen Thompson, unless Stephen Thompson's, because he's about 35 now, so he's exiting his physical prime.
Yeah.
So I don't personally see him grabbing a hold of Stephen Thompson and taking him down and blanketing him. RDA, yeah, you know what? I definitely see him beating RDA. RDA's
All right.
wrestling against better, or his defensive wrestling against bigger, better wrestlers has never been particularly good. You saw that against guys like Khabib Nurmagomedov and Colby Covington. So
Hmm, hmm.
I see Kamaru grabbing a hold of him and just hugging him for the entire fight. Darren Till, I don't. The way Darren Till fought Stephen Thompson back, like just keeping that distance and just like lunging in for a couple, like for one strike and then moving out again. I don't see Usman grabbing a hold of Darren Till either.
Hmm.
Colby Covington, you know what? I'm going to
Big
give
size
Colby.
difference, I think.
I'll give Colby that fight as well because Colby's he's a wrestler. So Usman
I
might
think
have
that
it.
one's gonna be
He might have the
competitive.
better wrestling on paper, but it doesn't necessarily mean he's going to have the better wrestling in MMA, or he's going to have the
Gotcha.
he's going to be able to put his wrestling to better use. And Tyron Woodley, I just
Hmm.
don't see a great deal of people beating Tyron Woodley. So that's my opinion on him against the guys above him.
Beautiful. Let's move on to my personal favorite in this division, Robbie Lawler.
Go on, my
My
friend.
man,
Tell me what you think about him.
Robbie Lawler. His reign as champion was the best. I loved it. It was the most entertaining era, the Robbie Lawler era. That was amazing. Legendary fights. Legendary fights. Just he was pure value, pure entertainment value. Robbie Lawler, exactly what you want in a fighter. Just like Chuck Liddell, just a pure. You know what? Fuck the takedown. Let's stand up. Let's fight. Beautiful. I loved him. I loved him.
All right, that's all right. I'll give my take on him now. Yep, I 100% agree. His reign as a welterweight champ was just so good. It was such a like a breath of fresh air into the welterweight division after having GSP as a champion for so long. GSP at the start of his reign was so exciting, just destroying guys because he got a lot of finishes. He TKO'd. He started off beat up Jay Heron, going off memory right now. But he beat Jay Heron, beat up Sean Shirk, who at the time that was a big deal. Then he beat up Frank Trigg, who was the number two in the world at that point in time. When he first fought Matt Hughes, he was beating Matt Hughes up until Matt Hughes pulled off that beautiful armbar from the Kimura trap. Every time, just remember when someone has a Kimura on you and you're on top, if you can move out of that half guard, there's an armbar right there, and that's exactly what he did. It was just fantastic. Well, I'm talking about Matt Hughes. Matt Hughes, I personally thought had a really fun career, but yeah, then GSP got a little bit safe. He started fighting a lot of decisions. He'd take guys down and kind of just hold them, and got or if he didn't feel comfortable taking guys down, he jabs them, jabs them, jab them. So yeah, that's the welterweight division got very, very, very stale for a long period of time until Robbie Lawler came along. And the first fight Robbie had against Johnny Hendricks, I thought that was a barn burner. That was great, and I felt like it was great because of the fact that Robbie Lawler could take those big power shots from Johnny Hendricks, and he could give some back. If it wasn't for the fact that he tied out so much in the fifth round, he probably would have won that fight. But then he won the second fight, which maybe he should have lost. But I'm happy that he won it because Rory McDonald versus Robbie Lawler came immediately after that, and geez, if
Yes.
anyone watching this video, oh god, if you haven't seen it, go watch it. There are just some just ridiculous moments in that fight. The first round was maybe a little bit slow, but after that, it lit up real quick, so quick. And Robbie Lawler had to come back from adversity in that fight as well because he maybe won round one, and then he lost round two, lost round three, and it went to the fifth round. I'm pretty sure, so he lost round four as well. He was rocked in both round three and round four up against the cage, just copping it. But then round five came out, and oof, yeah, no, that was a fantastic fight. That was good. And then he fought Carlos Condit, which once again another fight of the year candidate that they put on. That was supposed to be in Australia, by the way. I was very upset that that got moved, and then we end up getting Ronda Rousey and Holly Holm instead. But yeah, his reign as champion was amazing. And when Tyron Woodley knocked him out dead, I'm pretty sure I cried for about a week straight.
Yeah, I was very sad too. I really was.
Okay, so that's my part on Robbie. Oh, and also let's just go. Let's just say he's now 30, I think, or no, 35, and his
35.
first fight in the UFC was when he was 19. Might have to go check that. Let's have a look. When
36 according to the UFC page.
he's 36 now.
Yeah.
Okay.
First fight in the UFC is in 2002.
Yeah, look at that. Look at that. He's a veteran. He's the definition of a veteran, and he somehow managed to come back after how many years out of after. So he left the UFC in 2004, and then came back in 2013. So roughly 9 years, give or take, away from the UFC, and he came back to win the UFC title. So yeah, that's Robbie Lawler. He's just talking about a gamer. He's a gamer. He's someone that goes out there and just puts it all out on the line. Unfortunately, I don't see him ever becoming champion again or even fighting for the title again. But he can still beat some of the top guys in the division. I just don't see him beating the guys above him.
Right,
He's
let's
already lost
move
to
on.
RDA. Okay, number 4, Stephen Thompson. Give us your take.
Stephen Thompson. I think people have figured him out. Basically, don't blitz him. Don't just pew, 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 move back, pew, 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 move back. And you win. Because Stephen Thompson does not let his hands go and just waits for the counter. So people kind of figured him out, after watching Tyron. And yeah, that's pretty much it. I think he's on his way down. I don't think he's ever going to be champ. And that's my take.
Okay, personally, I don't think everyone's figured him out yet because Tyron Woodley struggled against him pretty hard. I mean, the first fight was a draw. Second fight was a majority decision, meaning one judge thought it was a draw. So both his fights with the current champ were super, super close, and Jorge Masvidal fought him and couldn't do anything to him. That fight was pretty much a walkover. And then he fought Darren Till, who a lot of people thought he won the fight. So I don't feel like he's been figured out yet. I feel a lot of people are struggling against him, and he's kind of struggling now against, say, the top guys like Darren Till and Tyron Woodley. But I still don't feel as though he's been figured out. So I feel like he's still up there. I reckon he'll fight for a title one more time. I don't think he'll win it, but I think he'll fight for it again. I feel like he's going to fight Robbie Lawler next, because he's been asking for that fight for a while now. He'll probably win that fight, which saddens me because I don't want to see Robbie Lawler get another loss on his record. But I feel as though he'll probably win that fight. He might fight maybe Damian Maia after that, beat Damian Maia, and then he'll fight for the title again. That's how I see his career going. I don't think he'll win the title, but I feel like he's still got a lot of gas left in his career.
Mm-hmm. Alrighty. RDA. RDA. I think RDA is fantastic. I think he's an incredible athlete. I think he has a fantastic skill set. The guy just struggles against pressure wrestlers. The guy just struggled against, Kobe Covington. I was surprised. I was waiting for him to, start letting his hands go at any point, but not. Just let himself get grinded down. So that was surprising. Well, he's very good. I can see him winning against Tyron Woodley because Tyron Woodley can't keep the same pace as Kobe Covington. So I think RDA has a good chance of winning against Woodley. But, I'm not saying that he's going to win against Woodley or is favored, but all I'm saying is that I can see him winning. I still favor Tyron over in the matchup. But yeah, pretty much it. 33 years old, will be 34 on his way down as I think. I think he's undersized for the welterweight division. The only thing that brought him up was his skill set. He's just a fantastic fighter.
Yeah. I agree with pretty much most of what you said, if not all of what you said. Against Tyron Woodley, I do see a path to victory there, in the exact same sense that you mentioned. The fact that RDA can keep up a solid pace. Tyron kind of slows down later on in the rounds, although Tyron does keep his power throughout all 5 rounds. He's always got power in his hands, despite how tired he is. RDA is a lot more well-rounded, I feel. He's got fantastic striking, fantastic jiu-jitsu, fantastic wrestling when he's not fighting guys with a much higher wrestling pedigree. yeah, I see a path to victory against Tyron Woodley. Unfortunately, he fought Colby Covington though, and Colby, he I feel like he put a beat down on
Fought a good fight.
RDA. A
I
lot of
wouldn't say
people,
beat down. I wouldn't say beat down.
I know,
He put up a good fight.
I feel like he just he was never
He
really in
grinded
that
him
fight.
down.
He won
Yeah,
one
you're
round
right.
maybe, and that was about it. I didn't see any other round where he won, and that was just
You're
because
right.
he
He
got a
wasn't.
takedown.
Yeah,
And
RDA didn't.
Colby kind of took that fourth round off. It's not like RDA started to take over. Colby's just like, all right, you know what? I've won 3 rounds. I can give him one. It doesn't feel like his power's doing too much to me. He's not going to knock me out. So I'll give him 1 round, and then I'll come back strong in the fifth round. That's exactly what he did.
Hmm. Yeah. Uh,
And
yeah.
yeah,
Very
well,
much.
there we go. Yeah, RDA, he's got the potential to beat really anyone on that top 15 list. It's just a matter of will he? I feel like he's got the ability. It's just whether he will or not. I don't know.
All right. Let's move on. Darren Till. All you never seen the man fight.
You've never seen the man fight. Okay, well, I've seen. I went back and watched a few of his fights. Before he fought, wait, let's let's go to his records so I can look at the names that he's fought, so I can tell you that I don't know who they are. Yeah, I don't know who they are. Up until he fought Donald Cerrone, I can't tell you the anyone that he fought previous to that. But he went on a can crushing trip as well, which is perfect for him. And that's what we were speaking about in our previous chat. You need to give these guys cans to build themselves up, build up their confidence, and that's exactly what he did. He fought Donald Cerrone. He was the bigger guy, and he had all that confidence in him. And you saw his swagger walking into the cage. Well, you didn't see it, but you watch him walking into the cage. He's so confident. He's like Conor. When Conor McGregor walks out to the cage, he's just so relaxed and so chilled. He's doing those funny faces. Well, Darren Till doesn't do the funny faces, but he just walks out there and he's just so relaxed. And in his fight against Stephen Thompson, he got the crowd behind him. He was singing. The song that he had playing behind him was not a song I expected to be so big, but yeah, can't remember what it was. I think it was Sweet Caroline. So he got the whole crowd singing Sweet Caroline, bump bump. So yeah,
Nice.
yeah. Okay, so he hasn't, other than Donald Cerrone and Stephen Thompson, he hasn't really beat anyone else. So it's hard to say too much about him. His style is very similar to Stephen Thompson. Well, he can fight similar to Stephen Thompson, where you kind of don't push forward too much. You wait and then you strike. So he can do that, but he's known more so for his pressure. So he can fight both ways. So his striking is very very diverse, and he's a Muay Thai striker. So obviously he throws a lot of knees, a lot of kicks, a lot of elbows. In his fight, I think it was his fight previous, just before Donald Cerrone, Bojan, I can't say his last name, I'm not going to try. He knocked him down like twice in the fight with elbows. It was crazy. Like the guy was pulling an Anderson Silva stand, like, come on, bring it, and Darren Till's like, okay, and then slammed him with an elbow and knocked him down. So it's hard to tell because we haven't seen enough of Darren Till. We saw a very lackluster appearance against Stephen Thompson. That was about it. So yeah, we can't really say too much about him. Do I think he'll beat Colby Covington? We haven't seen enough of his wrestling, so I don't know. Could he beat RDA? Yeah, he probably could, but RDA could probably beat him too. He's already beat Stephen Thompson, but that could have gone either way. We might do a rematch. I doubt it because no one really enjoyed that fight. Against Robbie Lawler, I reckon the Robbie Lawler fight would be fun. That's a fight that I'd love to see. Absolutely love to see. And Usman might be a potential opponent for him next because Usman's been calling him out for a while. So we'll see what he does against a wrestler when he fights him. Okay, we'll move on now.
Move on. The most important fight in the welterweight division. The champ, Tyron Woodley versus Colby Covington. What are your thoughts?
What are my thoughts? Oh man, I hate picking again. Like every time I pick against Tyron Woodley wins. So
why would you pick against Tyron Woodley? Colby Covington has nothing to offer.
He's a pressure fighter, man. He's good at pressure.
Yeah.
He's a wrestler. When was the last time Tyron Woodley fought a wrestler? Let's have a look.
Well, here's what I think. I don't think Colby Covington can knock out Tyron Woodley. I think Tyron Woodley can knock out Colby Covington. Do I think that Kobe Covington can take Tyron Woodley down? Maybe. I think Tyron Woodley is way more jacked, has a much lower center of gravity. So it's going to be very hard to take Tyron Woodley down. The only path to victory I see Kobe Covington is the RDA route, which is tire him out and just win on points, really. But other than that, I see Tyron Woodley knocking him out. I see Tyron Woodley taking him down and smashing him. Aside from, how can I say, beating Tyron Woodley from just pure exhaustion, which I don't think is going to work out because I think Tyron Woodley he's been champ. He knows what it's like to fight 5 rounds for a number of times. So, could be Covington. Nothing to offer.
Nothing to offer, you think? So
Nothing to offer.
I don't know. I like Colby. I feel he talks a lot of shit. He talks a lot of shit, and it annoys a lot of the guys that he fights. It really pissed off Damian Maia because he was talking so much crap about Brazilians, and it got, even though RDA said it didn't get to him, it did get to him because he kept on talking shit back. And that's the thing about Colby. Everyone keeps on talking about how his shtick isn't working. No one cares about him. But everyone's talking about him, saying that they don't care about him, so they're all contradicting themselves by talking about him. So it's just that.
That's true.
Yeah, and that's what I mean about getting into Tyron Woodley's head. He's gonna say, "Oh, he's not getting into my ears, he's not getting into my head." But clearly, if you're responding to these insults that he's throwing out there, then he clearly is getting to your head. He's already got you into a fight that you didn't want to have. Tyron Woodley's been saying for years, like for the past year and a half, if not 2 years, he's not going to fight Colby because he doesn't think Colby's at his level. And now, obviously, Colby's talked himself into a fight that he probably didn't really deserve, but there wasn't really anyone else to put there anyway. So, yeah, I don't know. I like the way Colby pressures guys, and because you look at all of Tyron's fights, he backs up to the fence a lot. Colby fights a lot of his fights on the fence.
Mm-hmm.
So I do see, I feel as though this is a good matchup for Colby. Unless Tyron changes something. Tyron's probably the better wrestler. But that doesn't necessarily mean it's going to translate over to MMA as well. Tyron's, every time he fights let's have a look at his record again. When was the last time he used his wrestling? Last time he used his wrestling was against Carlos Condit, a guy notorious for being, like, just having no takedown defense. And the last time he got wrestling used against him was Jake Shields, and Jake Shields beat him. And I watched that fight, and it says split decision, but no, he lost that fight because he was up. He had his back against the cage the entire time, and Jake Shields held him there the entire time, kneeing him, punching him, like doing pitter-patting him, not throwing much against him, but he lost the fight. Tyron wasn't able to get off the fence. And exactly to what I was saying previously, Colby fights against the fence really, really well, and I feel like that's what he's going to do to Tyron Woodley. And I see that as a path to victory, and even though that might be his only path to victory, that doesn't necessarily mean it can't happen. That's how he's won all his other fights. That's been his only path to victory in all his other fights, and that's how he's won all his other fights. So that's why I'm picking. I don't want to pick against Tyron Woodley, but I will just because. Well, why not? Why not?
Yeah,
I'll pick the underdog in this one.
Another thing could be Tyron Woodley's age: 30 against 36 and Tring 37. Yeah, Tyron Woodley could be getting old. However,
I would agree to that if there had been any signs to that he hasn't shown any signs of slowing down.
Mm-hmm. However, I'm gonna stick to my man Tyron Woodley. I love the guy. I've been very impressed with him. And yeah, that wraps it up for our welterweight division.
Yes, and we've hit an hour again. Jeez, man, this was supposed to be like another 20-minute podcast, but oh well, it is what it is. Well,
okay.
You checking? Getting nice and close. What's going on? Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, so
to our viewers, thank you for listening.
Yes, thank you for listening. What do we normally say, Dan Park?
We've been sexy, and you've been listening. That's so cringe. Take
amazing.
care, guys, and thank you.
All right, thank you very much. Peace out.